Hello, this is Daniel Mart, and today I'm going to be doing another video. This time around, I'm going to be doing another top 10 facts video. I know I haven't done one in a long time. It's been about two or 3 weeks. So yeah, again, I tried to do this as a weekly series, but since it's probably always going to be a long video, I'm going to try to do it at least bi-weekly at the very least. So yeah, the first one I did was Psycho. Now at the end of that video, I said that the next one was going to be Metropolis. However, I did not realize that that was in August or September, right? September, sorry. That was in September, and I didn't realize that the next month was October. So, how's about we actually do a Halloween movie or a scary movie, horror movie for October? Even if I'm only gonna do one, let's do one for October horror movie. And what better pick than The Shining? So yeah, I mean, I did the first one I did was Psycho, which was right like 2 or 3 days before September started, ended. I mean, or maybe after October started. I don't know. I haven't checked. So yeah, next one might as well be The Shining, and I've already done a review for it. So link up here when I annotation somewhere here. I did a review recently a couple days ago, so why not do The Shining? So yeah, now onto the first fact, which would be now as for the first fact, it kind of has to do with the color scheme of the movie. Now Stanley Kubrick, in every single shot, every single scene of the film, he put the color red visible, whether it be overtly or subtly. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, it's something to look out for. Make sure there is red in every single shot of the scene. Haven't really noticed that. So yeah, now is there red in this shot? There's Angry Birds, Ant-Man from Uncle, Spider-Man. So yeah, and the flag. That's actually orange. The Boston thing is orange. So yeah, there's a bit of red on my shirt. So yeah, there is red. Go figure. um. So yeah, now onto the ninth most interesting fact, in my opinion, which would have to be. So for the ninth fact, it actually discusses something I've talked about before, and it's actually not in the Shining movie review. It actually has to do with the famous conspiracy theory, and that is that Kubrick helped fake the moon landing and that he directed it. Now, I did do about a year ago, or a couple months, close to a year ago at this point, um, I did a conspiracy theory video when I still did them. I mean, I still do them from time to time, but again, I need time for that, let alone. But when I used to do them on a weekly basis, I actually did a videos discussing my thoughts on the fact that Kubrick may or may not have faked the moon landing. Annotation here, along with a Shining review. Now, some of the most glaring pieces of evidence that people point out is the fact that Stanley Kubrick also directed 2001: A Space Odyssey right before the moon landing. The fact that Danny Torrance wears an Apollo 11 sweater throughout most of the movie, and the fact that um, he changes the hotel room number from 217 to 237. If you guys don't know, it's actually based on a book. The Shining is based on a Stephen King book, and in the book it's 217. The room number is 217, but in the movie it's 237. And they say there's the distance between Earth and the and the and the moon is about 237 million miles away or something like that. I forget exactly. I think it's 237 miles um away, something about that. Yeah, it's not light years. I'll tell you right that right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like miles or something like that. So I mean, yeah, if you guys want to see more in depth in that video, I'll leave an annotation here as well as the Shining video. So yeah, the Shining review summary probably here, and then the conspiracy theory video here. Whatever. Now onto the eighth fact, which would have to be. As for the eighth fact, it has to do with another production thing, and basically the way it was shot. Again, now this one has nothing to do with the color, but Stanley Kubrick wanted to shoot the movie in order from progression of scenes in script order. This meant having all the sets needed standing at all times, and in order to achieve this, he would need every single sound stage to be built, pre-lit and ready to go. during the entire shot. Now, I couldn't figure out, or I couldn't find as to whether he actually did shoot the movie in order, but given the fact that it is Stanley Kubrick and the fact that he was an OCD perfectionist, I wouldn't be surprised. So, yeah. Now, for the seventh fact, which would have to be, so, yeah, for number 7, yeah, we're on number 7. For the seventh most interesting fact about The Shining, again, another production fact, and that is the fact that The Shining, alongside other iconic movies such as Bound for Glory, Marathon Man, and Rocky, all of them were some of the first films to use Steadicam. So for those who don't know what Steadicam is, it's basically um, a a different way of filming something, and basically the most iconic scene that uses Steadicam is the one with the little boy Danny Torrance, or Danny Lloyd is the actor, and Danny Torrance is the character, where you have him riding on his bike through the hallways, and that's basically Steadicam, where you have the camera following through several scenes, not really scenes, but through several locations, in the same set, trying to make a scene, if you guys know what I mean. So yeah, one of the first films, along with Rocky, Marathon Man, and Bound for Glory, to use Steadicam. Pretty interesting, pretty cool, and Kubrick obviously pulled it off. Now on to the sixth most interesting fact, in my opinion, for The Shining, which would have to be, now, as for the sixth most interesting fact of The Shining, I'm actually going to be discussing some possible alternative casting choices. So instead of Jack Nicholson being Jack Torrance, some other people who were considered for the role of Jack Torrance were Robert De Niro, Robin Williams, and Harrison Ford. Now, Robin De Niro and now there's actually an explanation as to why Robin De Niro and Robin Williams didn't get the role. Kubrick states that Robert De Niro didn't think he suited the role after watching Taxi Driver, as he deemed Robert De Niro not psychotic enough to play the role. However, when it came to Robin Williams, he thought that he was way too psychotic for the role. As for Harrison Ford, um, he was only considered briefly. So yeah, but that's kind of interesting. Robin Williams was too psychotic, while Robert De Niro wasn't psychotic. And what's more interesting is that he said Robert De Niro wasn't psychotic enough off Taxi Driver, while Robin Williams was way too psychotic off Mork and Mindy. So yeah, that's interesting. I would think it'd be the other way around, because Mork and Mindy is more of a funnier, sillier show. And then Taxi Driver is just you're down in depression like a fucker in that movie. So yeah, and then Harrison Ford, that would have been interesting. Harrison Ford as Jack Torrance. Um, so yeah, and then you also have Stephen King. He also wanted Jon Voight or more Michael Moriarty, sorry, to either play the role. So that's also interesting. So yeah, some alternative casting choices. So yeah, now on to the fifth most interesting fact, which would have to be, okay, for the fifth most interesting fact about this one. This one has to do more with Shelley Duvall. Yeah, and that's the fact that she suffered from nervous exhaustion throughout her filming, including physical illness and hair loss. Yeah, Kubrick is crazy. Kubrick's crazy. Yeah, funny enough though, Kubrick did say that he did like her performance in The Shining, despite the fact that every time he saw her on set, he continuously insulted her. Yeah, only Kubrick. Probably the weirdest fact I've read thus far, when it comes to method acting, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, Kubrick. For some reason, that doesn't surprise me though, because he did the same thing in Full Metal Jacket. I heard he did in Spartacus. Um, Barry Lyndon, I believe he did it as well. I'm not sure. I heard, not really sure on that one. So yeah, number 4, right? We're on number 4. Sorry, I've lost track of time. Now, as for the fourth most interesting fact, it obviously has to do with Stephen King. It has to be something Stephen King related, and that would have to be, So as I just said, the fourth fact has to do with Stephen King and basically his reaction to Kubrick wanting to direct The Shining and the outcome. So yeah, basically when Kubrick first called Stephen King to ask if he could get the rights to the book so he could make a movie, turns out he was actually shit-faced drunk off his ass. He was coming off a hangover, and he got the phone call. His wife answered, and at first he thought it was a joke. He thought something happened to his kids, but then he talked to Kubrick, and he became really excited. However, throughout production of the film, Stephen King became less and less excited of the movie, as Kubrick had denied his script, which was closer to the original. Had really didn't take any consideration to some of his casting choices, such as Michael Moriarty and Jon Voight for Jack Torrance, as previously discussed. Discussed, yeah, discussed or whatever, yeah, said, and yeah, when he finally saw the final outcome, he said that it was, and I have the exact quote right here. It was basically a fancy car without an engine. So yeah, he did admit that Stanley Kubrick's visuals were stunning. He did like visuals. But basically it was all surface but no substance. So yeah, a fancy car without an engine. Later in the 90s, later Stephen King went on in the 90s to direct a miniseries again based off The Shining, and it was about, I think it was like between 3 and 5 episodes, and it's mostly forgotten at this point. And furthermore, for those who don't know, Stephen King actually came out with a sequel to The Shining a couple years back. The exact title of that book is called, um, let me search it up right now, and it is called, and this one I kind of just remembered right now, to be honest, on the spot, Doctor Sleep. So yeah, the sequel to The Shining is Doctor Sleep. Basically, quick synopsis off of that from what I know. It's the kid Danny Torrance. He's grown up and he's still having visions of these ghosts. And he somehow manages to find this little girl, I believe. He manages to connect with this little girl across the country who also sees the ghosts. And it's actually getting pretty decent reviews. So yeah, now will that ever be turned into a movie? Um, I mean, The Shining did it, so why not? Yeah, but maybe they should have Stephen King have a little bit more input this time around. Then again, The Shining was still a great movie, nevertheless. So yeah, um, to each his own. So yeah, comment down below if you've seen the miniseries that Stephen King did about The Shining during the mid to late 90s. I heard about it, and when I read this, but it seems pretty forgettable. That's what many people are saying. So yeah, comment on that down below. Did you guys watch The Shining miniseries from like the mid 90s? Comment on that down below and let me know. Now, on to the third most interesting fact, which would have to be, as for the third fact, we're actually going to take a step back from The Shining and go more into something that Kubrick likes. So aside from making movies, fantastic movies, Kubrick is also a huge fan of chess. Now, one of the actors he cast in the movie is Tony Burton, and he had a small role as, I forget what exact, as a receptionist in a sense. Yeah, I guess you could call it a receptionist. He had a small role as Larry Durkins. They call him the garage owner. He seemed more of a receptionist to me in the film. Whatever. One day he arrived on set carrying a chess board in hopes playing a game with someone in between breaks during filming. Stanley Kubrick saw the chess set and um, he really likes chess, so he basically stopped all of production for The Shining, despite the fact that they were several weeks behind production, and basically he played chess with Tony Burton for most of the day, with Tony Burton only beating him once out of several games. To which Stanley Kubrick, I thanked him very much for finally playing a challenging opponent in such a long time, as he hasn't done that in a long time. So yeah, interesting. The fact that he'd rather play chess than finish a movie, despite the fact that he's way behind production. And you realize he's wasting money on that. He's wasting like probably thousands of dollars on playing chess. I mean, it's not Pawn Sacrifice. It's not a movie based on chess, so it doesn't make sense, you know. Yeah, Pawn Sacrifice. Yeah, Pawn. Yeah, Pawn's chess. Yeah, Pawn Sacrifice is a movie coming out later this year. So yeah, Now on to the second most interesting fact, per my opinion, which would have to be. As for the second fact, we're actually going to talk about one of the most iconic scenes in this movie and movie history as a whole. Here's Johnny, or here's Johnny. So yeah, according to Shelley Duvall, the famous "Here's Johnny" scene took 3 days to film, and the thing is that they had to use about 60 doors to accomplish this. The reason is that Jack Nicholson, before he became an actor, he was a volunteer fire marshal, and he was used to breaking down doors. So the prop department made an easy breakaway door, and they didn't know about Jack Nicholson's fire rescue history, so he broke it really easily, and he basically broke it easily. So then they were forced to build a stronger door, or 59 stronger doors. And speaking of which, the "Here's Johnny" line was actually improvised by Nicholson, and it's based off the introduction to the Johnny Carson show, which I actually didn't know till I asked the question, why did they have to say "Here's Johnny," or why did Jack Nicholson say "Here's Johnny"? I asked them my Shining movie review video. I think that's like one of the first things I said after this 10-second spoiler warning. Why did he say "Here's Johnny" if his name is Jack Torrance in the film? I didn't understand that until right now, and obviously I wouldn't have known that because I wasn't live in the 80s, or yeah, in the 80s. So yeah, pretty interesting. Here's Johnny. So yeah. Also, another line that was improvised was the little pig part, and the one with the baseball bat where he's swinging, where he's coming up the stairs and Shelley Duvall is swinging like a baseball bat. He also improvised some of those scenes too. So, pretty interesting. Now, on to the most interesting fact, which would have to be. Now, as for the last fact, we're actually going to be talking about the trailer for The Shining. Now, at the time, the MPAA, the people who regulate trailers, they didn't really allow the portrayal of blood in the trailers. However, The Shining, all of its trailers consisted of blood, specifically the elevator scene where you have the blood pouring out. Now, Stanley Kubrick managed to find a loophole, or he managed to convince the people at the MPAA, and said that water isn't really blood. It's just rusty water that he'll obviously explain in the film. I think we all know that wasn't really rusty water, and what the hell would rusty water even look like? I mean, I feel like it'd be more brown than red. That's been my opinion. It would be more brown than red. Also, interestingly enough, that elevator scene took three times to make. They got it on the third try. However, it would have been impressive, and that is impressive in and of itself, if not for the fact that the whole elevator set and the contraption that lets the water come out, takes about 2 weeks to reconstruct, and in a whole, it took about a year for that scene to come out because obviously they were editing, they were also shooting other scenes. So yeah, still pretty interesting. So that's basically all for this video. All 10 facts are down below for those who want to check it out. Again, just in order quickly, in every single scene there's red. Many people believe that this movie proves that that Stanley Kubrick helped in doing the space launch, the moon landing. Stanley Kubrick wanted to shoot this movie in order. This was one of the first films to use Steadicam. Other people for the role of Jack Torrance included Robert De Niro, Robin Williams, Harrison Ford, Mike Moriarty, and Jon Voight. Shelley Duvall suffered a lot of anxiety. Stephen King really didn't like the film as much, and then went on to make apparently a really bad and forgettable miniseries. Tony Burton played chess with Kubrick, and Kubrick basically stalled the production for a whole day to play chess. The "Here's Johnny" scene was basically improvised, and they went through 60 doors. And the last one is that Kubrick managed to get the trailer shown by convincing the MPAA that it's actually rusty water. So yeah, that's basically it for all. Which fact did you find most interesting? And do you have any other? And do you guys know any other interesting facts about The Shining? Comment all that down below. Let me know. Like the video, share on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, or whatever you guys prefer. And that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.